Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this video I get the ply sides on to the front section of the fuselage. They need to be tidied up a little bit, and we get the fin post bonded into place. So a reasonable amount of progress. So join me and I'll show you what I did. Offer up the ply fuselage side to one side. This is the ply supplied by Fisher, and it's just a little bit shy here. That said, we'll do a bit of a round over to soften the corners, and if there, depending on how much there is there, I don't think there'll be an awful lot of a missing chunk. I will fill that. The reason I've got this clamped on at the moment, I can then go in under here and mark up the two sides of this piece here and the spar there, and I can draw that onto, with that drawn onto this ply, I can take the ply off. I'll take the average of that and cut this, and I can then match that to the rear ply section and cut that so we've got a good joint. That's my helper. Hope you can see here are the lines which I've drawn on either side of the upright on the fuselage side, and then you can see the line that's halfway between going down. There's got that kink to go along with the spar carry through going all the way up. So I'm now going to just cut along there with a handheld jigsaw and clean it up with a sanding block, and then we'll transfer this shape onto the rear skin. With the front section cut here, what I've done is I've just laid it on top of the rear skin, you can see there, and I'm going to cut the rear skin through with a craft knife, a few passes, and that'll cut through that. Remember, I'm using a slightly thinner, well, chunk thinner rear skin, because I don't feel it needs to go to the same 1/8 thickness as it's at the front. With that cut carried out with the craft knife, all the edges of the plywood against my datum edge here, I drag this front section back. I think we can safely say that that is reasonably good joint. With the ply in place on top, just checking out to see what it's like going back. Nice sort of joint there. I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to draw around each of these members here and the longerons to put marks onto the ply, so I can rough up the areas where it'll bond onto those. Well, the whole thing had a wash down with denatured alcohol. Then I sanded the surface with some 80 grit, and then it had another wipe down, and this is how much dust that I managed to get off after sanding, just to key up here, going across the grain with the 80 grit, just to help pick up the fibres, to help get the glue a really good key into the grain. But if you look at this, you can see how much dust came out. That's why it's really important to do that final wipe down. The reason to use denatured alcohol to start off with is to get rid of any of the sort of surface release agent that they sometimes use on the plywood in their process of fabricating it and manufacture. So you wipe that off, that gets rid of some of it. Then the roughing up with 80 grit makes sure that there's definitely nothing there and gets that key going. And then the last wipe over denatured alcohol just gets rid of that dust It also helps just to get these fibres to stand up. The bits in between here will be sanded later once it's bonded in place, and I'll probably use 320 grit or something like that along the grain just to make it smooth enough for the varnish or paint to have a nice finish and to fill the grain fairly quickly. Okay, I have drilled the longerons for the undercarriage U channel sections. The hole going through for the bushings is pretty much centered on the joint between my extra piece, slightly more towards the center, and I turned up and made the bushings the same way as the ones for the wing mounts. So 10 just over 10mm, half inch near enough external diameter, and then these ones I've reamed to 1/4 inch. So I'll clamp the U channel in and I'll just spot mark them, drill them through on the pillar drill press to our American brethren to make it vertical, reamed and everything else there. Once I'm happy with everything there, that everything's aligned for the undercarriage, then I'll do a final check to see if there's anything else I can think of that can be bonded in place before I put the ply sides on from here back to that point there. Okay, with this cross member clamped in place, marks which I put on here before, I've just run through the hole there. I've just put a 1/4 drill bit just to mark the surface of the metal with everything aligned both sides. I did the same here for these ones, although I've moved this back 1/8 of an inch from the datum point just to give a little bit extra clearance down there for the elevator movement on the stick. And then what I'm going to do now is, this is already drilled and reamed, the rear one's drilled and reamed for 1/4. This front one here won't. I will, now that I've marked it with a 1/4 drill bit, I'm just going to drill it through with a 5mm drill bit, and then I can mount this on the jig, this one on the jig. This is the one that's going to be fixed in its position. This one here I'll mount it on the jig, but because I've only drilled it with a, or would have only drilled it with a 5mm drill bit, after I've built the undercarriage up on the jig, if there's any error I can pick it up by just drilling through here 6.2 and reaming it. It'll correct that hole if there's any error worth talking about, and there may well be. So I'm now just going to do the check measurement from the inner face of this U channel to the front face of this one here, so between those two. So I've got that done precisely, do that on both sides, and then I'll note those down so I can put the on the jig in the correct positioning for making up the legs when I come down to doing that. I hope you'll excuse me not videoing going around putting glue on everything and then clamping it, but there we go, there's the first skin on. Fair few clamps and a lot of weights because you can't clamp into the middle. The long sash clamps going. The front end here I'm using that beam of wood just to flatten out the whole length going across the upright, and then inside we've gone along and I've taken out as much of the squeeze out as I dare. We'll let it all dry, well, cure. And continuing with the theme, there is the second skin on, again clamped pretty much the same as the first one. Weights and my weight bags, my parachute packing bags being used. and on the inside I've put that anti-torque plate in position. I've made sure that I've got rid of the as much of the glue as I can on the joint face here. This will just need a light sanding. Ready for the rear ply section to go on. This section here where the plywood doesn't make it all the way to the bottom edge because a strip of ply which supplied is just too narrow. My methodology of what I'm going to do for this, I was originally sort of thinking I could just use a bulking agent, but it's too wide for that, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a sand, and I'm going to put in a piece of 1/8 strip wood, same stuff as I used for the geodetic, and I'm just going to glue a strip into there, and then I'll make that flush on both sides, and I can round these corners off a little bit going back. I've got both the anti-torsion blocks in place. I've just cleaned up the edges a little bit with a router, going around the edges just so it'll sit flat. Needs a lot more work. Got a little bit of squeeze out drippage and things there which I need to clean. Need to sand around. You can sort of see there's like a blob of glue down there, and I've got a little bit of excess glue, so I'll be sanding all that lot to neaten up the interior. That said, for the moment though, I'm going to leave that and do it all with the fuselage on its side once the rear sections are put in. So I'll get the rear sections put in. Before I put the rear sections in, I've just got this this frame temporarily up. That's yet to be modified a little bit for its width. Here though, I'm going to glue in the fin into position all the way. I will mark a line here, and I'll just trim back the trailing edge very slightly, 1/16 of an inch or so, to help match up with the taper of the fuselage. So I'll clean that up, get the angle a little bit closer to the thing, and I will have to probably put a little bit of bulking agent in the very corner there. The idea though is that the side skin will go all the way from the front section there all the way back to here, and it's sort of one continuous sheet, so there'll be no joints in it, and it'll act as a gusset between the fuselage side and the tail post, rudder post side, so it'll help key everything together. I'll do the one side, I'll have to drill holes through here, through the other way, and then do the other side. The rear post now is bonded into place. Actually glued it up, but with the vertical here, using the Clino to make sure that it's at 0 degrees compared to the datum, which is that front spar carry through. So everything's all nicely set up there. I'm just going to let that cure, and probably have to clean out this hinge piece here because I can see some of the glue started to sort of ooze into that. Clean that out to make sure the hinge fits in nicely there, and we'll start putting on the side pieces. So that's really it for this week, and quite a productive week really, getting the two sides on. Hopefully in the next video we'll clean up the bits and pieces going on in there, having got the two outer side pieces on with a bit of luck, and probably get this rear frame bonded into cut to shape and bonded into place, ready to just hold this fin where it needs to be before we play somewhere else. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.